So the Razorvine ability or the C ability for Vyse works like this. You can place the Razorvine down, and when you want it to detonate, you literally just click F on it, and it kind of detonates like a Killjoy Molly, which will spawn these Razorvines in this radius, which is actually quite big. The one big con of it is that it actually doesn't really slow them too much. So if I was to place this Razorvine down and detonate it, you could actually fully sprint through it. It does make quite a big sound cue as they're sprinting through it and tanking the damage, but it just really doesn't stop the push. The other con with this ability is that you can actually see it and hear it from a decent amount of space away. So you could really just break it and it gets no value since it does have a second to deploy. And the sound cue is pretty loud though, so I'll let you guys take a listen. But as you can see, they can just fully sprint through it. Next up, we have the Shear ability or the Q ability. It works in this way. When you place it down, you can place it down at certain choke points. It's got a decent amount of range. As you can see, I can place it right here. But the way it works is after a player walks past this line, whichever line you lay it down, it'll create a barricade that cannot be broken. So any teammates that are behind, if they're not with the team, they will be trapped behind and not able to help. So I'll show you. You can see the line right here.
Wall tripped.
And now a wall is formed and anyone that would be C-long would be trapped outside of it. The only con with the wall is the fact that you can just see it like this and you can fake trigger it with a jump spot, for example. So I could show you, I could go like this and now they have wasted their Q ability and I can just rotate with my team. So that is one of the cons with your Q. So you need to use it with intent. Now the E ability can be placed on basically any wall, like a Cypher camera. And in order to detonate it, you just press E and it will flash you. You can also place your flash through the wall with right click. So if I right click, I can place it on this other side of this wall. And this is very unique and it can be used on T side, for example. You could place it through the wall from cubby, which would place it here. And then you could flash sight for your team, which is decent. And then you could also do something like this in heaven, where you place the flash outside of heaven. Or you could even place it in hell, pop your flash and then jump out. There's a bunch of things you could do with the flash, which is cool. And you can also fake where you're coming from. So for example, I could place a flash down here, flash and then jump out. This flash also works similar to Skies, where it will give you info if you blind something. So for example, if I blind this person, I'll let you hear what the sound cue says.
Blinding. Good hit.
So you can hear as I flash someone, it'll give me a audible sound cue giving me free information.
Good hit.
And finally, for Vyse's ult, what will happen is you can see on the mini map, this is the range that the ultimate will hit. And when you throw it, it'll make it so that the other person cannot use their primary weapon. So they can only use their pistol. So I'll show you from my point of view. Once I get hit by this ult, my primary is now jammed. So I can only use my classic or my knife. Vyse's ultimate also does not affect Neon ult. So if you're playing Neon and you get Vyse ulted, you can just simply pop your Neon ult and you can still shoot. And this exact same concept works with Jett. And as you guys probably guessed, it works with Chambers Operator as well. And since Vyse's Razorvines are so straightforward, you can do something like this, where you throw this line up here, and then this line up here, and these two will land market and on top of the shed here. So if you detonate them, anyone in market will not be able to sprint out and swing, and no one will be able to retreat through stairs. So I think using it for attack in this way is really strong. And since you don't have a trip, I do suggest using your wall to actually hold the flank in this way. You could even place the wall like this, whatever you would like. But I do think that the wall should be used to hold flank on T side if you are solo sentinel. Another thing that's really interesting is that if you know any Brimstone Molly lineups, you can use Razorvine and do the exact same lineup and it'll work. So for example, this is a Brimstone Molly lineup. I'll use that and it will land right on dice. And if I use the exact same lineup using Brimstone, you'll see it lands in the exact same spot. So for B site, we're going to put our first Razorvine on this grate right here. And then we're going to put our second one inside of the boathouse. And then we're going to go ahead and take our flash, place our flash right here. And then we're going to put our wall right here. As soon as they trigger this wall, we're going to be playing on lane. We're going to pop our flash. We're going to detonate our Razorvines, spray anyone down out here coming lane that's blind. Or if they try to come out here, they'll be stopped behind the wall and in the Razorvine setup. So for A site, I'm going to be placing my first Razorvine right on this grate. And then I'm going to come over here and place my second one on this little piece of grass. Then we're going to be placing our wall diagonally like this, so that anyone who crosses over will get triggered right here trying to get to the door. And then we are going to be placing our flash right here. When they trigger our wall, we can pop both of our Razorvines, pop our one-way flash, and this is how it'll look Razorvine wise. And the flash is a one-way flash for us as well. So the first thing I do is place my flash right above this window, and then I take my first Razorvine, bounce it off the top of this roof, which will land on top of the garage ledge right here, and we'll also get garage. And then I'll bounce my second one off the top of this roof to get it on top of here. And then if you line up right with these pots, this wall will block the entire right side of site, forcing them to either funnel through this area. And then I'll position myself right here. As soon as I hear them sprinting up long, I'll pop my 2 cages, pop my flash, and peek with it. Reset, I would just personally put my wall right here, just so they can't lurk into B ever, and they can't enter in. Now for A side, I put my first Razorvine right here, and then I'll place my second one at the top of short. I then go ahead and place my wall right here, right on this block. And what I'll do is I'll position myself with my flash right here. If I hear anyone pushing up a long, I can peek, maybe get the first frag, and then flash, peek with a one-way. And then after they trigger this, I'm able to fall back. And I can also use this so they're not able to just sprint up short on me if I am trying to retreat back. So for A side, I like to put my flash right around this area, as it'll blind anyone in this area of the map. And it's also a one-way flash if you're swinging from rafters. And then I'll take my first Razorvine, I'll place it top site right here. And then I'll place my other one on top of 410. So if I do want to swing with my utility right here, I could pop 1, 2, flash, have a one-way flash. This will stop anyone, default anyone from scaling on top of the zip line towards top site, and it will just completely stop the push here. Basically every round, I'm going to put my Q in tube, just so they're not able to lurk into kitchen on our team, and I think this has a ton of value in itself. Now for B site, I place my flash on this pillar over here, and then I'll place my first vine right on this little wire, and my second vine right on this shoe right here. I then like to play top site. If I hear them running up, I can use this flash and peek with it as a one-way flash. So I'll detonate, one-way flash, and then I can actually peek with it without getting blinded. And they aren't able to scale up because of my vines as well. So on A side bind, I'll typically place the wall right here for showers, right about where they grab the orb. So if they're taking showers control, I have info early. And then I'll place my flash right here on this wall, which will blind anyone who's scaling into short. Typically, you'll see smokes here. And then I'll place my first Razorvine right here on this piece of paper. And then I'll place my second one right on top of this box right here. If they do sprint in, I can detonate my 2 trips, pop my flash, one-way flash. Anyone will have to run through the tripwires and the flash that I'm peeking with. So for B set, every round, I think placing your wall diagonally like this is really strong. The reason that I say that is so that if they do TP, they will be separated from their team, which means that you can rotate and push onto the single player that's able to get into hookah. So this gives you a ton of info. It'll always tell you they're not in hookah, and if they do TP, it'll tell you that they are split up from each other going into hookah. I do think having one cage right here underneath drop and then having the other one around here so that if they do jump in, there's not really much for them to scale from, and then you can kind of just play elbow and spam through the smoke in an ideal world. So on Sunset, in my opinion, your wall should always be either top mid so that they're not able to get up top mid, or in market so that they're not able to lurk up market. This gives you tons of information, and it's probably the most value that your wall will get on this map. So for A site, I like to put my trip right here, one on this yellow line, and then I'm going to put my other one on this yellow line. The reason I do that is because I like to peek aggressively from elbow. So I'll actually put my flash right here, and off the start of the round, I'll pop my flash and peek with it. And after I get a kill, I can then fall back and pop my two trips, and they're not able to chase me. So I get a free man advantage. On B side, a very simple cage setup. I'm just going to be putting one trip on that block and one trip on that block as they run in. And I'll just have my flash on this window as they run in. Pop my two trips, pop my one-way flash, and try to get some spam kills right there. As you can see, this flash is very strong as it'll blind anyone sprinting out of sight. For Lotus, in my opinion, you should always be placing your wall right here just so no one can lurk into B and get behind your team. This provides a ton of value itself. If you want even more info, you could place the wall a little bit deeper like this so that you can have earlier info. So for A, I start by putting my flash on this monked face. This will blind anyone in tree and running up main. Then I'll place my first trip right here in this corner and my second trip right over here on this block. I typically will be playing around here. If I hear them running into sight, I'll detonate this, peek with my flash, and they'll only be able to run towards stairs, which my teammates should ideally be at. So for C side, I like to put my flash right on this pillar. I put my first trip right here. And then I put my second trip on this lily pad. And then I position myself right behind this pillar. If they do run in, I can pop my flash for a one-way flash, and I'll also detonate these two. So it'll look something like this. I'll have a one-way flash, and then they'll basically be funneled either in this area while blind, or they have to run through the trait. So as soon as the round starts, I typically will be placing a wall right here, since this will give you info if they're A main or not. If they don't touch this wall, you can just stack B in mid. You can also place your flash through the wall right here and peek with it if you want, or you can use it as a one-way flash for yourself. I'd also place my two trips here and here, so that if they do try to enter, they are basically forced to path right into either tower or to the right side of sight, which you can just be holding from here. So for B site, I'll typically place my wall like this to block off the drop area of the map. And then I will place my first trip right on top of here. And then I'll place my other trip right around here. I like to personally put my flash right around this area because this allows me to peek with it as a one-way. So if they're coming B, I can pop my two trips, peek with my one-way flash. The wall will stop them from coming drop, and if they try to run up this way, they have to run through the vines.